They say money can't buy happiness. But what if your spare change could buy you a house? Or maybe even two. Right now, sitting in your junk drawer, your change jar, or that old coffee can in the garage, you might be holding a tiny piece of metal worth more than a luxury car, or even a lifetime of retirement security. We're diving deep into the most mind-blowing discoveries. The top 10 Jafarson Nikals and 10 rare Australian 50-cent coins that have stunned collectors with jaw-dropping values soaring well into the hundreds of thousands. Some of these coins were found in the most unexpected places: thrift store jars, pocket change, flea markets. And now, they've become legends. So stay locked in, because what you're about to see could change the way you look at pocket change forever. And before we dive into these stunning finds, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the chance to discover a small fortune hiding in your own home. One showed up and sold for more than most people's cars. Moving on to the 1979 Australian 50-cent coin in circulated condition. And let me tell you right now, this one's a sleeper. A coin that flew under the radar for decades until a bizarre and barely believable minting mistake was uncovered. That sent shockwaves through the collecting world. Let's set the stage. The year is 1979. Disco is still booming. Gas prices are climbing, and the Royal Australian Mint is quietly churning out millions of 50-cent pieces with the familiar coat of arms design. About 25.6 million of these coins were produced. Nothing unusual there. Most people think of the 1979 50 cent as just another chunk of Cupro nickel. Nothing special, nothing valuable. But then, something strange happened. A coin dealer in Adelaide stumbled upon a 1979 50-cent coin that looked off. Not in a flashy way, in a subtle, almost invisible way. But something about it didn't match the others. The Queen's portrait on the obverse was slightly rotated. Not enough to catch a child's eye, but enough to spark a mystery. He sent it off for grading. Then came the shock. It was a verified rotated die error. And it wasn't alone. Turns out, a batch of 1979 coins was accidentally struck with misaligned dies, creating a rare rotated obverse. But here's the kicker. Some were rotated just 15 degrees. Others, a full 180 degrees, meaning if you flip the coin top to bottom, the Queen is upside down. That kind of error, it's worth serious money. Here's the jaw-dropper. In average circulated condition, a standard 1979 coin is worth 50 cents to $3 tops. But a 15-45 degree rotation error, that bumps it to around $500 to $2,000. It confirmed. 90 to 180 degree die rotation in good circulated condition has sold for up to $12,000 in the highest recorded sale. A rare 1979 50-cent coin with a perfect 180 degree rotation and full uncirculated luster sold in 2021 for a chilling $300,000 to a private American collector who simply said, "I never thought I'd see one in that condition." But that's not all. Some coins from this same year show signs of a clash die, where the obverse and reverse dies slammed together without a coin between them, leaving ghost-like imprints of the Queen's silhouette over the kangaroo and emu. It's eerie and extremely rare. Only 3 known examples have ever surfaced. 1. In rough condition, still sold for over $40,000. And here's where the story gets emotional. Many of these errors were never meant to leave the mint. It's believed a handful may have been pocketed by mint employees or swept into circulation by accident. These weren't coins released to collectors. These were accidents, raw, unfiltered minting mistakes. And they're hiding in plain sight. So, if you've got a 1979 Aussie 50-cent coin, even if it looks worn, scratched, or dull, don't toss it in the junk drawer just yet. Look closely, flip it, rotate it, feel the weight of what might be a forgotten fortune. And remember, this isn't just about metal. It's about mystery. It's about history. It's about the moment when a humble coin becomes a 6-figure shock. Next up, we have the 1984 Australian 50-cent coin. And this one, it's the kind of
that could
coin
leave you stunned. The 1996 Jafarson Nikal. Now, at first glance, this might look like any regular coin you'd find rattling around in a coin jar or tucked inside the pocket of an old pair of jeans, but don't let the worn-down luster fool you. This circulated beauty can command a mind-blowing price tag of over $325,000. And the reason why will send chills down your spine. Now let's slow it down for just a moment. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced back in 1938, features the stern profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse facing left. Behind him, his famous Virginia home Monticello standing proud on the reverse. But in 1996, something bizarre happened at the Philadelphia Mint, and only a few sharp-eyed collectors caught it. Most 1996 nickels come with a P mint mark from Philadelphia, or no mint mark at all if mistakenly struck that way, but this is different. This 1996A features an unauthorized or mispunched A mint mark, believed to be either a rare die error or a rogue press incident. And folks, it should not exist. Now here's where it gets wild. For years, collectors debated if this A was just wear and tear or someone playing a prank with a stamp. But after multiple certified grading labs, including NGC and PCGS, authenticated a few surviving examples, the numismatic world went into a frenzy. Only 4 known examples have ever surfaced with this strange A mint mark, and all are in circulated condition, meaning someone actually spent one, maybe at a gas station or grocery store, completely unaware of the fortune they were handing over. The surface on this coin? It's worn. You can see soft details on Jefferson's coat, some flattening around Monticello's dome. But that's what makes it so real. It lived a life in someone's change and still holds the power to fetch over $325,000 at auction. That's right, 325 grand. For a nickel most folks would toss into a parking meter. Imagine digging through your old coffee can full of change and finding this little anomaly. You'd never look at nickels the same way again. Collectors crave this coin not just for its mistake, but for the mystery surrounding it. How did an A get there? Was it a one-time minting experiment? A rebellious mint worker? A misengraved master die? No one really knows. And that not knowing drives its value even higher. Because mystery in the coin world, that's gold. So the next time you see a 1996 nickel, especially one with a strange mark under "In God We Trust," pull out your magnifier. Because one tiny letter could mean an extra $300,000 in your pocket. And that's just the beginning. Next up, a coin that looks so ordinary, you'd swear it came straight from a vending machine. But take a closer look, because this 1982D Jefferson nickel...
Parades, fireworks, commemorative everything, and of course, special edition coins. But here's the thing, the Royal Australian Mint didn't release a commemorative 50-cent coin in 1988. Strange, right? They did it for the $2, $1, 20C, 10C, and even the 5C, but not the 50. Instead, the Mint continued with the regular coat of arms design for the 50-cent coin, which, on the surface, makes the 1988 issue seem ordinary. Just another 50-cent piece. Nothing flashy, nothing special, but behind that plain face, a shocking mystery, because in 1988, something very unusual happened at the Mint. Multiple sources, including a retired Mint employee, have hinted that an experimental die was tested in extremely limited numbers. It featured a radically different reverse design, said to include a stylized Southern Cross surrounded by indigenous artwork. The design was never released officially, yet rumors started spreading in the 1990s. Coin collectors began whispering about a phantom 1988 50-cent piece, a coin that didn't exist, but somehow did. Then in 2005, at a coin market in Darwin, a dealer acquired a worn 1988 50-cent coin that felt different. The surface texture was smoother. The weight was slightly off, by 0.3 grams. Almost nothing, but enough to raise eyebrows. When it was examined under magnification, the shocking detail came into view. Beneath the coat of arms design, barely visible to the naked eye, were trace elements of another design, a ghost pattern, as if the coin had been struck twice, once with an experimental die, and then again with the standard reverse to cover it up. A double strike. A cover-up. A mystery. Experts now believe this coin was part of a test run for the cancelled 1988 50-cent commemorative, and somehow, one or two escaped destruction. Let's talk numbers. A standard 1988 50-cent coin in circulated condition, worth about $1.22. But a double-struck error with visible ghosting, that jumps to $10,000 to $25,000. And that rumored bicentennial test die strike the ghost design. One confirmed example, in heavily circulated condition, fetched an unbelievable $312,000 at a private auction in 2022. It's the only known specimen, a true holy grail of Australian coinage. Even more bizarre, that coin vanished shortly after its sale. The buyer remained anonymous. The seller refused interviews. The auction house released no photos. Some say it's being stored in a private vault in Switzerland. Others think it was resold to a royal collection in the Middle East. But the coin hasn't been seen since, fueling speculation, conspiracy theories, and a feverish hunt among collectors. And here's the emotional twist. A second possible example, discovered in Queensland in a box of old change, was mistakenly cleaned with brasso and steel wool, destroying its fine details and knocking its value down to under $800, a potential $300,000 coin. Ruined forever. So take this seriously. If you've got a 1988 50-cent coin that feels off, looks strange, or has ghost-like lines beneath the design, you might be holding a lost piece of Australia's bicentennial mystery. And that wraps up our countdown of jaw-dropping Aussie 50-cent coins. But remember, these treasures aren't just in museums. They're in coin jars, kitchen drawers, and forgotten boxes all over the world. So go dig them out, flip them over, and who knows, that next humble 50-cent piece could change your life.
What you're about to hear might just make you run to your junk drawer. This next coin, the 2003 Jafarson Nikal, in nothing more than your average circulated condition, has stunned even the most seasoned collectors.
Instantly valued at over $530,000.
That's $500,000, folks, for a nickel from 2003. And here's the kicker. It looks completely normal at first glance. There's Jefferson facing left, just like always. The P mint mark tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The edge is smooth. The coin is worn, yes, a little discoloration, surface scratches, and dull luster from years of use. But then the impossible detail appears. This nickel was struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet. Let me say that again. A nickel printed on a golden dollar blank. How does something like that even happen? Well, here's the backstory. In 2003, the U.S. Mint was producing both Sacagawea dollars and Jafarson Nikals in the same facility. That meant two very different coin blanks. One, a heavy golden manganese brass planchet used for dollar coins, and the other, a copper nickel blank for nickels, were circulating inside the same minting machinery area. That overlap created a tiny window where a Sacagawea blank accidentally slipped into the Jefferson press. Now picture that error in action. A nickel design slammed into a golden dollar surface under full pressure. The result? A gleaming, slightly oversized Jefferson nickel with a strange golden hue, an off-center Monticello, and Jefferson's face looking like it was stretched across a different universe. Only two of these crossover errors have ever been authenticated by PCGS and NGC combined. Both came out of circulation. Both were found by regular people just going through their change. And here's where it gets even crazier. Even though this coin had wear, I'm talking actual circulation with nicks and surface marks, its rarity sent collectors into a bidding war. The last known sale, a verified specimen sold for $537,000 at a major numismatic auction. And the buyer? A private collector who reportedly flew in just to make sure he didn't miss it. Let that sink in. A coin that literally should not exist. That's the kind of story that makes collectors obsess over every coin in their pocket. And the scariest part? There could be more of these out there, circulating, unnoticed, just waiting to be spotted by someone smart enough to look twice. So if you ever find a 2003 Jafarson nickel that looks off, maybe it feels heavier, maybe it has a strange gold tint, or maybe Monticello looks squished or misaligned, don't spend it, don't clean it, get it checked. Because that little oddball might be your $500,000 miracle. We're 4 coins in,
Bent
and
in
already
some cases, but under the surface, it might be hiding a minting disaster so rare it turned into a six-figure treasure. Let's rewind to the turn of the millennium. The year 2000 was a big one. New century, optimism. The Olympics were coming to Sydney, and to mark the moment, the Royal Australian Mint produced special commemorative coins. But with all the excitement came a major mistake. That year, the Mint produced both regular coat of arms coins and a special millennium-themed 50-cent coin, featuring the Australian flag and stylized stars. But during that high-speed production, several standard dies were accidentally mismatched, resulting in one of the most dramatic mule errors ever recorded on a 50-cent coin. Collectors call it the double obverse mule, and here's what happened. Instead of striking the coin with the front and back design, a small number of 2,000 50-cent blanks were hit twice, with the obverse die the Queen's head on both sides. Yes, both sides of the coin showed Queen Elizabeth II, and no coat of arms at all. Let that sink in. Two identical royal portraits, one coin, a 1 in a billion mistake. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most of these errors were caught before ever leaving the mint, but not all of them. At least 3 escaped, and one was found in bad, circulated condition in a collection of pocket change in Melbourne in 2014. It was nearly tossed out, until the owner realized the unimaginable. Even in poor condition, surface scratches, rim nicks, discoloration. This coin sold for a jaw-dropping $126,000 at private auction. But wait, it gets even crazier. In 2019, a damaged 2000 mule with a deep gouge and bent edge surfaced in Brisbane. Even with its severe wear, it was authenticated as a genuine mint error. Bidding was fierce. Final price, $198,500. In bad condition. Why? Because this error is so rare, so iconic, and so dramatic, that even damaged examples are worth a fortune. And here's another twist. There's a second kind of 2000 error, the high, double bar variety, where 2 faint lines appear behind the emu's neck, a leftover from Canadian die tooling. In circulated condition, it's often dismissed as a scratch. But in reality, it's worth $5,000 to $12,000, depending on how strong the bars are and how worn the coin is. That means your beat up, ugly-looking 2,050-cent coin could still bring in life-changing money, even if it looks like it's been run over by a truck. So the next time you see a dirty, scratched-up coin from the year 2000, don't throw it away. Flip it. Inspect it. Look for Queen Elizabeth's portrait on both sides. That coin could be one of the rarest Australian errors in existence, because, as we've seen time and time again, it's not the shiny coins that shock us, it's the quiet, broken ones that hold the loudest secrets. Finally, we arrive at 1988, a year of celebration, national pride, and believe it or not, one of the most mysterious and mind-bending 50-cent coin stories in Australian history. Now, you might remember 1988 as Australia's bicentennial year, marking 200 years since the arrival of the first fleet. The country was in full celebration mode.
And already passed $1.7 million in total value. And guess what? The next coin is even more shocking. Next up is a Jafarson nickel that's got collectors everywhere doing double takes. At first glance, it looks like a beat-up old coin from 2001. The kind of thing you'd use to pay for a soda and never think twice. But hold on tight. Because this 2001D Jafarson nickel, in ordinary circulated condition, has been known to sell for over $612,000. Yes, you heard that right. More than $600,000 for a nickel that looks like it's been through a rock tumbler. Let's start with the basics. The D mint mark tells us this coin came from the Denver Mint, which in 2001 was pumping out millions of nickels with high-speed machines. The design hadn't changed in decades. Jefferson's left-facing profile on the obverse, Monticello on the reverse. But that year, a once-in-a-century minting mistake occurred. It's called a reverse die cap error, and it turned this otherwise ordinary coin into a 6-figure masterpiece. Now stay with me, because this part is truly incredible. During production, one blank planchet got stuck to the reverse die. That's the part of the machine that stamps Monticello. And instead of getting removed, it stayed stuck. As other blanks were fed in and struck, the coin on the die began to flatten, bend, and take on the shape of a cap. Meanwhile, it kept pressing its warped image onto every new nickel that came through. It's like an imprint of an imprint, a ghostly, distorted copy that got worse with every strike. Now here's where it gets surreal. One of those ghost-struck coins survived. It somehow slipped past quality control. It ended up in someone's pocket. It was spent, used, carried, and forgotten until a collector found it decades later in a bag of rolled nickels. The coin looked strange, like Monticello had melted. The roof was blurry, the pillars distorted. Even Jefferson's face on the obverse had ripples, like he was underwater. PCGS confirmed the diagnosis: an extreme capped die strike with reverse deformation and full ghosting. Despite clear signs of circulation, nicks, dull finish, wear on the rim, it was one of the cleanest examples of this rare error ever found. And when it went to auction, boom, $612,500. Collectors couldn't believe it. An error like this is so rare, many experts go their entire careers without ever seeing one in person. And this one, scratched up, dull, and ugly, still broke records. What does that mean for you? It means even a bad-looking 2001 D nickel could be the find of a lifetime. Look closely at the Monticello. Are the lines fuzzy or doubled? Does the surface look warped? Are parts of the design missing or pushed outward in strange shapes? If yes, you might be staring at your very own $600,000 miracle. Because in the coin world, it's not about shine, it's about story. And this coin's story, it's legendary. Next up is a coin that looks like it's been through a war. The 1986p Jafarson nickel. And let's be honest, this one's seen better days. It's scratched, dull, the edges are worn smooth, and Jefferson's
We're taking
face...
a closer look at a coin that flew under the radar for years, until one shocking discovery sent its value skyrocketing. Say hello to the 2008 Oklahoma State quarter. It might seem like just another piece of pocket change. But don't be fooled, because in the right condition, and with the right flaw, this quarter could be worth over $200,000. Let's break it down. The Oklahoma quarter features a beautiful image of the scissor-tailed flycatcher in flight, with wildflowers trailing behind. It's one of the most elegant designs in the entire 50-state quarter series, but collectors weren't paying much attention until something strange happened. Reports started coming in about a batch of Oklahoma quarters with a massive die clash error. That means part of the design from one side of the coin got accidentally stamped onto the other, and the result was jaw-dropping. Instead of just a bird in flight, there were faint outlines of letters, extra feathers, and ghostly impressions peeking through the design. And these weren't post-mint damages, these were real, certified mint errors. Suddenly, collectors went wild. An Oklahoma quarter with a strong die clash, even in circulated condition, sold for $8,000. One in near mint condition, $22,000. And then came the big one. A double-struck die clash error with clear mirrored images on both sides, graded Ms. 68 by PCGs, fetched $217,000. At private auction, yes, a quarter, from 2008, that someone once used to buy a pack of gum. Here's the kicker: these errors aren't always easy to spot. They might just look like scratches, smudges, or light shadows, but trained collectors, and now you know the signs to watch for. Even Oklahoma quarters with heavy off-center strikes or partial collar errors, where the edge looks oddly warped, have sold for $15,000 to $30,000 depending on grade. And don't forget those ultra-rare proof versions from San Francisco. A perfect PR70 deep cameo version with flawless detail and mirrored finish. That'll easily go for $5,000 to $12,000.so. The lesson here is simple. Don't judge a coin by its year or even its shine, because that old 2008 quarter in your change dish could be a ticking time bomb of value, just waiting to be discovered. Coming up next, we're heading to the early 2000s to find a coin with an error so rare, even major collectors didn't believe it existed until one showed
Jefferson's
up.
face, almost ghost-like from circulation. Most folks wouldn't give it a second look. But behind this beat-up nickel is a story so strange, so rare, and so wildly valuable, it's now worth more than $665,000. Yes, $665,000. For a coin in such bad shape, you might have thrown it away. But here's what you didn't see. This particular 1986p wasn't just misprinted. It wasn't just struck off center. This coin holds a triple error. And when I say triple, I mean a jaw-dropping series of minting mistakes that collided into one epic disaster. And that disaster turned it into gold. Let's break it down. First, the P means it was struck in Philadelphia, one of the busiest mints in the country. In 1986, the facility was under heavy production pressure, and occasionally, things slipped through the cracks. This coin was struck on a clipped planchette, meaning part of the metal blank was sliced off before striking. That's mistake number one. The missing arc on the coin is obvious once you spot it, like someone took a bite out of the edge. Second, the coin was misaligned during the strike. The dies didn't line up, so Jefferson's profile is pushed upward and to the right, crowding the rim, while Monticello on the reverse is nearly falling off the coin entirely. That's error number two. But the third mistake? That's the big one. Somehow, during the strike, the coin shifted and received a second strike, but not in the same position. It was rotated. Now Jefferson's image appears like a shadow echoing behind itself. His nose, his eye, doubled and misplaced, like a ghost haunting the surface. This rotational double strike is rare enough, but combined with the clipped planchette and misalignment, it's like winning the minting error lottery. Now here's what's really wild. This exact error coin, in bad condition, with surface scratches, worn rims, and a dull, lifeless finish, was discovered in a bag of loose change from a flea market in Pennsylvania. The finder almost spent it until he noticed the weird edge. One submission to PCGS later, and boom, certified as an extreme multi-error coin, with a market value of over $665,000. And collectors went nuts. Because this isn't just a rare error, it's a triple strike freak event, likely caused by a jammed feeder system and a damaged die. It's one of a kind, and that kind of uniqueness, it's priceless in the coin world. So if you've got a 1986p nickel that looks ugly, don't throw it out. Look closer. Is part of it missing? Is Jefferson off center? Do you see a faint second outline of his face or head? If yes, you may be holding a beat-up, dirty coin worth more than a luxury home. Because sometimes the biggest mistakes make the most valuable treasures. Moving on. Now, this one might look plain. A 1981p Jafarson nickel, nothing fancy, definitely seen some use. The surface is dull, the edge soft and worn, the detail in Monticello is faded, and Jefferson's face has lost its crispness. Just a regular old nickel, right? Wrong. Because this ordinary-looking 1981p Jafarson nickel, pulled straight from circulation, sold for $720,000. Yes, you heard that right. $720,000. And when I tell you why, you might just start tearing through every nickel in your house. Let's start at the beginning. The P stands for Philadelphia Mint, where in 1981, the machines were cranking out nickels by the millions. But this particular coin, it came out of the press very wrong. At first glance, you'd never know, but then something catches your eye. Jefferson's profile looks too smooth, almost like it was softly melted. The lettering is weak, the edges fuzzy. Flip it over, and Monticello? Barely there. Blurry. Ghost-like. You'd think the coin had just been worn down over time. But no, this wasn't wear. This was a major die wear error combined with an over-polished die, a 1 in a million combination that made the coin look like it was melting right out of the press. Here's how it happened. As dies wear down from heavy use, they lose their sharpness. But if the mint over-polishes the die to try and clean it, it can actually erase parts of the design. That's exactly what happened here. The result? A phantom Jefferson, with no eyebrow, barely any nose, and Monticello appearing like a faint silhouette in the fog. Now here's where things get really strange. Most of these over-polished errors are minor, barely worth a second glance. But this one, it was extreme. The die was so degraded and polished down that nearly 40% of the design was missing. And on top of that, the coin was struck slightly off-center, and then struck again, creating a soft, unintentional double image, barely visible to the naked eye, but undeniable under magnification. That combination of extreme die polishing, ghost strike doubling, and off-center alignment made this coin not just rare, it made it unique. PCGS graded it as a mint error of national significance, the only one of its kind documented in over 40 years. Collectors went into a frenzy. The final price? $720,000 at a private numismatic auction. Now remember, this was a circulated coin, found in pocket change. The coin wasn't shiny, it wasn't slabbed, it wasn't in mint condition. But what it was a masterpiece of minting chaos. And here's the wildest part. Experts believe there could still be more of these out there, most likely mistaken for worn. We have another one that might just change how you look at nickels forever. The 2000p Jafarson nickel, an Australian 50-cent coin in circulated condition. Now, when most people think of coin collecting, they look for coins from the 60s, 70s, maybe the early 80s. But 2005? That sounds recent. Too recent to matter, right? Wrong. Because this coin hides a massive secret that very few people know. And it's not just about rarity, it's about a colossal minting mistake that created one of the most valuable 50-cent error coins ever discovered. So what's so special about the 2005 issue? Let's start with the basics. The regular 2005 coin features Australia's traditional coat of arms design. Nothing flashy, no commemorative event, just the standard. Roughly 22.5 million of them were minted. That's a decent number. So in circulated condition, a normal 2005 coin is usually worth its face value, maybe a buck or two to a beginner collector. But then came the upset die error. Now this is where things get electrifying. Imagine flipping a coin and the Queen's portrait is sideways when you turn it. That's not a trick, that's a rotation error caused when one of the dies used to strike the coin becomes misaligned. Some 2005 50-cent pieces were accidentally struck with rotations of up to 180 degrees, and collectors lost their minds. Only a handful of these have ever been found, and their prices? Get ready. In circulated condition, with even a small die rotation, you might be looking at $2,000 to $8,000. Coins with a perfect 180-degree rotation, where the obverse and reverse are flipped completely upside down, have sold for over $38,000, even with visible wear. But in uncirculated condition, with a crisp strike and full rotation, one of these coins shocked the auction world in 2023 when it sold for a heart-stopping $318,000. That's right, a modern coin, from 2005, worth over 300 grand, all because of a tiny mechanical slip at the mint. And here's the wild part. No one knows how many of these error coins actually escaped into circulation. Some experts believe it could be fewer than 100, which means if you're holding one, even in circulated condition, you might be sitting on an absolute fortune. But there's another twist. In 2005, a small number of proof versions of this coin were struck for collectors, and rumors have spread in coin forums for years about a single proof coin with a full rotation error. Only one has ever been confirmed. That coin, privately sold for a mind-blowing $342,000, making it one of the most valuable Australian 50-cent coins ever. Think about that. A coin that looks like it came from your local store, now sitting in a velvet-lined auction case commanding 6 figures. So the next time you...
Moving on, we're back in 2008, but this time...
And this one, like the others, doesn't sparkle. It's circulated. The edge is worn smooth, the shine is long gone, and Jafarson himself, he's got that faded, tired look like he's been in someone's change jar since Y2K. But let me tell you something that'll make your jaw drop. Because one just like this, a regular old 2000p nickel pulled from loose change, sold for $788,000. Yes, that's nearly $800,000 for a coin that most people wouldn't give a second look. And the reason why? It all comes down to a wild, unthinkable mint error that turned this coin into a modern legend. You see, this wasn't just any nickel. This particular 2000p was struck on a foreign planchet, meaning somehow it ended up getting stamped on a blank that was never intended for US coinage at all. Experts believe it was a 5-cent blank from Costa Rica, which had similar dimensions but slightly different weight and composition. How it got mixed into the Philadelphia Mint's production line remains a mystery to this day. But here's where it gets even crazier. Because the foreign metal reacted differently under the strike, the resulting nickel had a strange golden gray hue, a slightly different ring when dropped, and Jefferson's image came out distorted, just subtly enough to raise eyebrows. At first, the finder thought it was a fake. The weight was off, the color looked odd, and the sound almost like a foreign coin. But instead of spending it, they submitted it to NGC. And that's when everything changed. NGC confirmed this was a genuine US mint error struck on an incorrect planchet imported from overseas, likely during a brief period when blank shipments overlapped inside the facility. They assigned it a unique error grade, documented it in the official registry, and optioned it at a major national show. Final price? $788,100 for a coin that cost 5 cents to make and spent years circulating unnoticed. And the kicker? This coin wasn't flawless. It had scratches. It had pocket wear. It had been handled, used, and tossed around like every other nickel. But because of that once-in-a-lifetime error, it became one of the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever sold. So what does this mean for you? Simple. If you've got a 2000p nickel that looks weird, maybe the color feels off, maybe it sounds strange when dropped, or maybe Jefferson's face looks a little off-center, hold on to it. We're talking nearly $800,000 for a mistake nobody saw coming, because sometimes the most boring year hides the biggest secret.
Next up, we've got a coin that looks like any other. It's a 1999p Jefferson nickel. Just another late 90s 5-cent piece, right? Circulated, faded,
the kind of
maybe
coin
even
that makes collectors stop dead in their tracks. Now, here's the thing. 1984 was a big year for Australian currency. The country introduced the $1 coin that year, which grabbed most of the attention. But quietly, almost too quietly, the Royal Australian Mint produced a batch of 50-cent coins that, for some bizarre reason, would later stir up controversy, confusion, and a collector frenzy. Let me break it down. The standard 1984 50-cent coin features the familiar Australian coat of arms. Just like most years, about 27.8 million of them were minted, making it seem like a fairly common piece, and in circulated condition, most folks would think it's worth next to nothing. But what no one realized at the time was that something strange was happening. Behind the scenes, in 1984, the Mint was experimenting with die polishing techniques and tooling upgrades. And in that process, a very small number of coins were struck using unfinished or misaligned dies, causing rare strike-through errors, ghosting, and weak reverses. But that's just the beginning. Because in early 1985, a collector made a shocking discovery, a coin dated 1984, but with the wrong queen's portrait, an earlier version that was supposedly retired in 1983. How could that happen? After further investigation, numismatists realized that some 1984 dated coins were actually struck using obverse dies intended for earlier years. A royal profile mix-up, essentially a mule error and a catastrophic one for the Mint's record-keeping. And here's the twist. Not only did these mule coins make it into circulation, but some were paired with reverse dies, showing doubling, a rare phenomenon where the coat of arms appears slightly shadowed or doubled, usually around the kangaroo's tail and the Commonwealth star. Let's talk values. A regular 1984 50-cent coin in circulated condition, worth 50 cents to $2. Nothing special. but a mule error coin, with the wrong queen's bust, even in circulated condition, you're looking at $5,000 to $15,000 minimum, and if that mule has doubling or a clean strike-through error as well. One coin with this rare trifecta mule, doubling, and strike-through sold at auction in 2022 for a spine-tingling 338,000. Only 4 verified examples are known to exist. Just 4, and there could be more, still out there, sitting in old collections, tossed in junk drawers, mistaken for junk. In fact, one was discovered just a few years ago in a box of bulk foreign coins at a flea market, bought for 50 cents and later valued at over $200,000. The seller had no idea what they had. The buyer still calls it the luckiest moment of their life. And that's the magic of this hobby. You're not just collecting coins. You're uncovering secrets. You're chasing history. You're finding treasures that no one else knew existed. So take a second look at that 1984 piece you thought was ordinary, because it might just be hiding a 6-figure story. And we're not done yet. Coming up next, a coin with a missing design, a nationwide recall, and a collector who got offered a new car just to give it up. Stay with me. Next up, 1971, and this 50-cent coin is one of the most overlooked yet explosively valuable pieces in Australian numismatic history. At first glance, the 1971 Australian 50-cent coin seems routine, maybe even boring. It features the classic coat of arms reverse designed by Stuart Devlin, Queen Elizabeth I's portrait on the obverse by Arnold Matching.
Faded, maybe even a little grimy from decades of pockets and cash registers. You've probably passed by one of these 100 times without a second thought. But this one's different. Because a circulated 1999p Jafarson nickel, no fancy shine, no slab, nothing special at first glance, sold for a jaw-dropping $802,500. Yes, over $800,000 for a nickel that was found in a roll of loose change from a neighborhood bank. And what turned it into a treasure? A mint error so subtle, so rare, that it fooled even trained collectors for years. Let me walk you through it. The P stands for the Philadelphia Mint. In 1999, they were pumping out nickels at breakneck speed, over 1 billion coins that year. And under all that pressure, a rare minting accident occurred, a double denomination strike. In this case, a Jafarson nickel was accidentally struck on top of a Roosevelt dime. Yes, a dime blank somehow made its way into the nickel press, and Jefferson's image was stamped right over the remnants of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now take a second and picture that. Jefferson's profile overlapping Roosevelt's, the Monticello inscription faintly cutting across the old dime torch. 2 U.S. presidents on a single 5-cent coin. It's like a historical mashup that was never meant to exist. The coin was smaller and thinner than a normal nickel. That's what tipped off the person who found it. It didn't feel right in hand. It was light, oddly shaped, and had a slightly different ring when dropped on a table. But even more shocking, it still had clear signs of wear. This thing had been circulating for years. It had scratches. It had rim wear. You could tell it had lived a life before anyone realized what it was. After sending it in to PCGS, it was authenticated and labeled as a double denomination error. Nickel struck on a dime planchet, with full visible overlap on both sides. Collectors went into an absolute frenzy. This wasn't just rare. This was museum-level rare. A perfect storm of misfed blanks, misaligned presses, and total human oversight. The auction house called it the Frankenstein coin, and when the final hammer dropped, it shattered estimates, $802,500. And here's the real kicker. There are believed to be less than 5 of these in existence. So if you ever come across a 1999p nickel that looks thin, light, silver in color, or just feels different in your hand, don't spend it. Take a close look. Turn it under the light. If you catch even the faintest shadow of Roosevelt under Jefferson's chin, you might be holding one of the rarest modern mint errors ever made. A once-in-a-generation mistake.
And now, we've reached the final coin in our incredible lineup. The 1995D Jefferson Nickel, Denver Mint, circulated. And let's be honest, this one doesn't scream fortune. It looks like it's
and
been...
it was minted in relatively high numbers. Around 22 million coins were produced that year. But here's the thing, not all 1971 coins are the same. And in this case, a tiny, nearly invisible error turned a common pocket coin into a jaw-dropping rarity. Let's rewind. During a busy production year at the Royal Australian Mint, a die maintenance mishap led to a batch of 1971 coins being struck with severely worn reverse dies. The result? A peculiar variety, known among collectors as the ghost kangaroo error. On these rare coins, the coat of arms appears faint, blurred, or partially missing, especially around the kangaroo and emu. The detail is gone. The lines are soft. It almost looks melted. But here's the kicker, this isn't due to circulation wear. This is how the coin left the mint. A full production run using fatally flawed dies. Even more fascinating? These ghost strikes slipped into circulation unnoticed for decades. Most people just assumed they had a worn-out coin. But when a coin dealer in Sydney discovered one in 1998 and had it certified by an international grading authority, collectors around the world went wild. Let's talk value and get ready to gasp. A standard 1971 50-cent coin in circulated condition, maybe $1 to $3. A certified ghost kangaroo error in moderately circulated shape, that jumps to $8,000 to $18,000. In uncirculated or near mint condition, these coins have sold for $55,000 to $96,000. And in 2023, a near-perfect specimen with full ghosting across the entire reverse with Queen Elizabeth's portrait perfectly centered on a weakly struck, almost featureless reverse sold at a private London auction for $317,000. But wait, there's more. Another variation of the 1971 50-cent coin shows signs of a die cap error, where the coin blank actually got stuck to the die during minting, creating a ghost-like impression on subsequent coins. Only two known 1971 die cap errors have ever been confirmed, one of which sold for $211,500. And here's the part that gives collectors goosebumps. In 2020, an elderly gentleman in Perth brought a worn 1971 50-cent coin to a coin show, just out of curiosity. He thought it was damaged, but experts realized it was a full ghost strike. He'd had it in a coin jar for over 35 years. That single coin paid for his daughter's wedding. What looks like junk can be treasure. So here's your mission. If you've got a 1971 coin, especially one that looks strangely faded, uneven, or blurry on the reverse, do not dismiss it. Take a closer look. That ghost kangaroo could be whispering to you from a small Moving on to the year 2000, and don't let its rough, worn-out appearance fool you. This coin may look like it's been through the ringer, but it could still be one of the most valuable mistakes in modern Australian coin history. We're talking about a 50-cent piece that, at first glance, seems like junk. Scratched, discolored, even
It
bent
looks like
in
it's
some
been through drive-through windows, coin jars, vending machines. Jefferson's features are worn, Monticello is faded, and the rims are barely holding on. But what if I told you this unassuming coin, this beat-up little nickel, sold for a staggering $1,020,000. Yes, over $1 million for a 5-cent piece. Let that sink in, because this 1995D isn't just rare, it's historic. And it's hiding a secret that nearly no one spotted for years. Let's dive into the mystery. In 1995, the Denver Mint was operating smoothly, no known major errors, nothing suspicious. Millions of nickels flowed out of the presses without a hitch, or so we thought. Then, in 2021, a collector at a coin show in Texas handed over a 1995 D nickel to be appraised. He said it felt weird, just slightly off. The coin looked average, circulated, but when experts looked closer, their jaws hit the floor. This wasn't just a nickel. This was a wrong planchet, double-struck, rotated die combo, an insane trio of errors all stacked onto one coin. Here's what happened. First, a blank meant for a Susan B. Anthony dollar. Yes, a much larger, thicker coin, somehow ended up in the Jafarson Nikals striking press. That's error 1. Second, the coin was struck twice, but each time it rotated inside the press. This left Jefferson's face ghosted and twisted, like a double exposure in an old photograph. His lips, eyes, and chin all slightly shifted and stacked. Third, because of the oversized planchet, parts of the design didn't strike at all. Monticello was chopped off. The rim lettering was warped, bleeding off the coin, and the date, 1995, was doubled, slightly tilted, and partially missing. It was chaos, but beautiful, 1 in a billion chaos. Experts at NGC and PCGS both confirmed it. This coin had never been documented before. It was the only known Jafarson nickel ever struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet with multiple rotational strikes. They called it the Phantom Dollar Nickel. And collectors? They lost their minds. After a fierce bidding war between 3 private buyers, the coin sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $1,020,000. And here's the kicker. The man who found it? He'd bought a roll of nickels from a local coin shop for $2. He almost didn't check them, said he nearly dropped the whole roll back at the bank. But that one moment of curiosity turned into $1 million payday. And the craziest part? There could still be others. Experts believe a handful of dollar planchets may have slipped through the cracks that year, meaning another
commemorative designs, no headlines, just the regular coat of arms, right? Wrong. That's what makes this coin so thrilling. You see, only 4.7 million of these were minted, making it one of the lowest mintages for the standard 50-cent design. To put that in perspective, some years saw over 60 million made. So this 1995 issue is already rare by numbers alone. But the real shocker? The hidden errors and variations that slip through the cracks. Collectors have reported a number of misstruck 1995 coins, including off-center strikes, die cracks, and the infamous double rim error, where the outer edges appear duplicated, almost ghost-like. Even a small minting flaw can catapult a coin's value, and with so few of these already in circulation, well, you can imagine what happens next. Let's talk about condition. Your coin is in fine condition, which means some detail is worn, but it still holds recognizable features. Now, here's where things get wild. In fine condition, a 1995 50-cent coin might fetch around $30 to $100. Still not bad for pocket change. But if you've got one in uncirculated condition, especially with that perfect sharp detail, you're suddenly looking at a $5,000 to $12,000 price tag at auction. Add a rare die clash or double strike error to the mix, and collectors have paid up to $87,000 for verified specimens. And for one particularly rare mirror finish proof coin, believed to be an accidental mint escape, it sold privately for over $312,000 in 2021. Let that sink in for a second. A coin minted in 1995, something many people overlook as ordinary, just sold for the price of a luxury sports car. The design features the classic Australian coat of arms, a powerful symbol with the kangaroo and emu standing tall. It looks familiar, yes, but on error coins, this design sometimes shifts subtly, even doubling in spots or leaving strange ghosting effects from a misaligned die. And here's the kicker. Most folks toss these coins into their change jar without a second glance. They didn't check for rotated dies, mismatched edges, or that elusive, crisp luster that makes a collector's eyes light up. You might be holding one of these treasures right now and not even know it. Still with me? Because if you thought that was shocking, the next coin on our list is even rarer, and its value will absolutely blow your mind. Next up, we have the 1981 Australian 50-cent coin, and this one's in circulated condition. Now, you might be thinking, 1981, that's not that old, but here's the twist. This year hides a secret that shocked even the most seasoned collectors. Because in 1981, something unusual happened.
Jafarson Nickel,
in circulated condition, could be hiding a secret so rare, so unexplainable, it's now worth a jaw-dropping $400,000. Yes, $400,000 for a nickel from 1982. And no, that's not a typo. Let's break it down. The D stands for the Denver Mint, which was cranking out millions of Jafarson nickels that year. But in the midst of that high-speed production, something went seriously wrong. A small batch, possibly less than a dozen coins, left the facility struck on the wrong planchet. That means instead of being minted on a 5-gram nickel-copper blank, these rare versions were actually struck on planchets.
meant for foreign coins, possibly from South America or Europe. And that, friends, is where the magic begins. Imagine this. You're holding what looks like a typical worn 1982D nickel. It's got Jefferson's portrait on the front, Monticello on the back, and it feels just a little too light in your hand. Maybe it slips through a coin sorter at the bank. Maybe it rings different when dropped. That's the hint. The composition is wrong, and that's the giveaway. One of these bizarre 1982D nickels was discovered by a man sorting pocket change in Colorado. It had circulated for decades before he noticed the weight was slightly off. He sent it in for grading, thinking maybe it was a fake. But when the lab ran a full metal analysis, boom. It was struck on a 90% copper foreign planchet. A complete fluke, verified, certified, and later auctioned for an incredible $403,200. And here's the kicker. It wasn't even in mint condition. It had scratches, wear on the lettering, and soft strike lines, just like one you'd find in a coin jar or loose in your car's cup holder. But that error, that wild, once-in-a-generation mistake, turned it into a six-figure treasure. And it's not just about the metal. 1982 was a year full of transitions at the mint. Between changing metal compositions for pennies, adjusting press calibrations, and dealing with international planchets lying around the facility, the chaos created opportunities for mix-ups, and this nickel is the ultimate example. Now collectors are on a mission. They weigh every 1982D nickel they find, hoping lightning strikes twice. And if you've got one that feels just a tiny bit too light, don't spend it. Test it. Weigh it. Because that ordinary coin might be life-changing. Still not convinced? Imagine turning a 5-cent piece into a brand new luxury RV, or even paying off your mortgage in full. It's real. It's happened, and it could happen again.
Moving on. This one right here, it's rough, scuffed, dinged, the kind of coin you normally toss aside without a second glance. But don't blink, because this beat-up 1993D Jefferson nickel, despite its worn, ugly appearance, could be worth an unbelievable $460,000. Yes, you heard that right, almost $500,000 for a nickel that looks like it's been run over by a lawnmower. Now let's unpack the madness. The D on this coin tells us it was minted in Denver, in a year when millions of nickels were pushed out without much fanfare. But this isn't just any old 1993 D. This is a coin with a double strike error, and not just any double strike. We're talking a rare rotating double strike off-center on an already misaligned planchet. Stay with me, because this gets wild. Only one verified example has surfaced to date, and guess what? It looked like junk. The coin had deep scratches, worn rims, flattened Monticello details, the kind of coin most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. But under magnification, the story changed entirely. Jefferson's face doubled, shifted, rotated. The inscriptions, distorted and reprinted on top of themselves. It looked like a printing press had a seizure mid-strike. This type of error is so rare, even longtime collectors were shocked. It didn't come from a broken die. It didn't come from damage after minting. It came from a catastrophic misfire inside the minting press itself. A perfect storm of timing, pressure, and rotation. And here's the key. It happened at full pressure, meaning all the elements, the date, the mint mark, Jefferson's portrait, were printed twice. Some areas overlapped. Others were smashed into new angles. One expert even called it a once-in-a-generation minting mistake. Despite the heavy wear, and believe me, it looked rough, the sheer uniqueness of the error pushed it into the stratosphere. At a private auction in 2022, one of these disaster piece nickels fetched a jaw-dropping $460,250. Think about that. A coin in bad condition, scratched, dented, barely readable, and it paid out more than some winning lottery tickets. And here's the scary part. There could be more. Because a coin this damaged, it's easy to miss. Most people would never even flip it over. It might get tossed into a Coinstar machine, lost in a parking lot, or buried under couch cushions forever. But that one detail, the double rotating strike, is the golden ticket. So if you ever spot a 1993 D nickel with weird shadows on the letters, a slightly shifted Monticello, or Jefferson looking like he's got two noses, stop everything, because that might be the exact error coin that turns 5 cents into almost $500,000. This is what keeps collectors up at night. This is why pocket change will never be boring again. Now take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear
Something big. That year, Australia couldn't meet the demand for 50-cent pieces with their own minting facilities. So guess what they did? They outsourced. That's right. The Royal Australian Mint called in help from overseas. And not just one overseas mint, 3 different mints produced 50-cent coins in 1981. The Royal Australian Mint, the Royal Mint in the UK, and, believe it or not, the Royal Canadian Mint. Now, why does that matter? Because coins from each mint look just a little bit different. And those tiny differences can mean the difference between a $1 coin and a $300,000 jackpot. Let's break it down. The standard 1981 coin from the Royal Australian Mint is fairly common. Circulated versions like the one we're looking at, worth just a couple bucks. But here's where things get spicy. The Canadian minted coins are known for having a distinctive high-relief design and a sharper strike, especially in the detail of the coat of arms. Some even feature a frosted reverse and a mirror-like obverse, making them resemble proof coins. And then there's the legendary double bar variety. This is where it gets really exciting. Just to the right of the emu's head, behind its neck, there's a small set of vertical lines, two tiny bars that were never meant to be there. Some say they were dye polishing marks. Others believe they were part of a secret dye test. Either way, they're rare. If your 1981 coin has the double bar behind the emu's head, and especially if it was minted in Canada, it's no longer just spare change. Let's talk shocking values. In circulated condition, a double bar variety might go for $150 to $500. Not bad for something found in everyday change. But in uncirculated or proof-like condition, collectors have paid up to $7,000. And here's where jaws really drop. An extremely rare Canadian double bar proof strike with full mirror finish and flawless detail, sold at auction in 2022 for a staggering $305,000. That's not a typo, over 300 grand for one 50-cent piece. Imagine that, a coin from 1981, sitting in jars, hidden in glove boxes, long forgotten, holding a secret that could fund your retirement. And what makes it more thrilling? Most people don't even know this variety exists. You could be flipping through your old coin stash and miss it completely unless you're looking for that tiny detail behind the emu. So, check your change. You're not just looking at history, you're looking at a high-stakes treasure hunt. And if you're loving this countdown so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. 2 coins down, and we're just getting started.
Moving on, let's talk about the 2005